I have surrounded myself with 10 of my favorite plants to grow at the moment, and today I just want to show you all of them close up. Hey everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you can see, I have surrounded myself with some of my prized possessions. Now of course I have way more plants than just those 10, but not all of them are always thriving. Considering this is my hobby and my job, I actually don't think I have that many plants. I very much value quality over quantity. So for example, this over here is just one plant, but I have grown it to its absolute best. And that is really what excites me about this hobby. I put a lot of time and effort into growing these plants. It's not just acquiring them and then setting them up and then neglecting them. The way that I like to grow is pretty hands-on. I obviously have to water, do pest treatment, but I also actively manage the way that they look through moss poles, through tying up of petioles, through strategic light exposure and so on. So my entire plant journey, all of my tips and tricks, all of the things that I do with my plants are usually to optimize the aesthetic of the plant, because my end goal is to decorate my house with plants. And I don't want to have a shelf with 100 little one-leaf plants. I want to have large statement pieces against my walls, in my corners, wherever I can fit them, and really showcase how beautiful nature can be. And that is really the concept behind today's video. I just want to show off the work that I've done over the last 4, 5, 6 years. A lot of them have been with me for a long time. I do these videos every now and then, and I try to switch it up in today's video a little bit, but at the end of the day, I have a certain taste, which means I have certain preferences, which means, you know, some of these plants might not be strangers to being in a top 10 list. And some people have pointed it out in the comment section before, and I understand where you're coming from. Of course, ideally, you would love to see a different plant in every video that I make. But that's unrealistic, and that's not how plant care works either. It's not like fast fashion, where you get a different top from Temu every day, you wear it once and you don't even bother washing it, but just throw it out because you just want to consume. I'm in the hobby of growing plants. So of course, if you followed me for the last 3 years on my YouTube channel, you see the same plants coming up again and again and again. It's because those are the plants that I have decided to grow. I can't get a new plant every day just so I can make more content. That is exactly the content that I don't want to make. I don't want to encourage overconsumption and get as many plants as possible just so you've got something new and shiny in your collection. I value the skill of growing. I value patience and consistency. So having a plant like this one over here that has been with me for 5 years, we've lived in 4 different houses together. I've taken care of this plant for a long time and consistently took care of that plant. So I'm proud of the achievement, and that's what I want to show you. I want to show you what it's like when you actually grow them and not just collect them. So in theory, I understand your feedback, but yeah, I'm not going to change anything about the way that I run my hobby, and this channel is just a reflection of how I run my hobby. Actually, I did not want to start this video with a rant, but you can tell I'm really passionate about it. But let's maybe quickly move on before I get too caught up in all of this. And let's just start right here. This is my Filidendrin Verrucosum, and this is my second Verrucosum. I have a really large mother plant that I showed you in previous videos, so look at me switching it up. And this one is just a lush propagation, and over here I have many shoots, but have a look. Each leaf is still so pretty, and with this plant I'm not aiming for maturity, I'm really aiming for a lush result. And I think these Verrucosum leaves are super stunning even when they're juvenile. Verrucosum is my favorite plant of all time, so I don't think anybody's surprised that it ended up on this list. The benefit of double, triple, quadruple planting, I don't know, I think I probably have 10 shoots in here by now, and I'm gonna make a dedicated video about this setup in itself as well. The benefit over here is that Verrucosum has really large internodal spacing, but because I have so many plants on there, you still end up with a very lush result. So I think this looks stunning, and it doesn't take up all too much space either. So very happy that I have a double up of this plant. And guess what? I don't just have 2 Verrucosums, I actually have 3. Let me quickly show you the third one. Here we go. This is my attempt at growing a crawling Filidendrin verrucosum. The internodal spacing is absolutely a nightmare, so I have to trail it up and down in this pot, but I think the end result is kind of cute. Of course, I'm heavily biased. I mentioned before, verrucosum is my all-time favorite plant. I just can't get over the red backs, the hairy petioles, the shiny front, the veining, the velvet. I think there's just so many beautiful parts to this plant. And of course I'm going to come back to my little rant from the beginning because I'm petty. But yes, technically it's the same plant, but even just those two are so different, right? I mean, while maybe the leaves in themselves look the same because it is the same DNA, it's a completely different way of growing. It's a completely different setup. So it might suit different people. And then we have the mature plant as well, right? Maybe not everybody's gonna have space and 5 years of patience to grow such a large mature plant. But maybe this is something achievable, or maybe this is something achievable for other people. So while I'm showing you technically the same plant when we're just referring to the name, plants are growing, plants are changing. Plants look different based on the way that you grow them, based on the setup that you use. They're never the same. It's not identical. It's not like I'm doing a video about a painting and the painting is going to look the exact same in 3 months' time. You know what I mean? The plants change, hopefully for the better, but sometimes also for the worse. And that is also reality. That is normal. And that's what I like to show you. Anyway, I promise that was the last rant. We're going to move on with normal programming now. Editing Jan can always edit that promise out if I change my mind, can't I? Let's go from small to a little bit larger. This is my Monstera Thai Constellation. And yes, I have spoken about this recently because, oh my god, it's so heavy. I'll put it on the couch. And yes, I have spoken about this recently because I just transferred her to a moss pole, or like, it's not a moss pole, it's a grow pole. It's filled with an aeroid mix. And that's exactly why I love her, because I really enjoy this new setup with her and I wanted to give her a moment to shine. I didn't speak much about this plant over the first 2-3 years of having it really, because I don't think I really had the most impressive results to show for. But now that she's growing nicely, it's giving me large leaves, it has this beautiful variegation as well, I'm really proud and happy, and I really can't wait to see where our journey takes us. So I really wanted to include her. Alright, next one. And a little bit smaller, this is my Filidendrin Luxurians. Now I haven't had this for that long. I think this is only just short of 2 years in my collection, I believe. And I think for having had it only for 2 years, this is a phenomenal result, right? But it's not always just about growing them as big as possible, as fast as possible. I'm happy to take my sweet time. As long as I see the plant continuously maturing, like increasing in leaf size, as long as I see the plant being happy, I am excited about every single leaf. At some stage it grew this leaf, and that was the biggest leaf it ever had at the time. And I was super happy about it because it was still the biggest leaf at the time. I'm realistic with this, right? I know that growing plants is a marathon, not a sprint. I know that when I get really small plants, they won't just instantly explode and be ginormous. But it is not about the instant gratification for me with this hobby. It is really about the journey and learning the journey. And sometimes the longer the journey takes, the more rewarding it is to finally figure the plant out and to end up getting this plant to maturity. So yeah, I'm really excited about this journey that we've got ahead. And so far, we're doing amazing. It's such a different anthurium. I usually always grow velvet, dark and veiny, but this one is a little bit bullite. So I'm also starting some pollination journeys with this over here because I think it has some interesting features that I would love to make some hybrids with. Let me move the Thai because she takes up so much space. This is my Monstera deliciosa Brazil form. Monstera deliciosa, probably the most famous houseplant in the world. This one is the Brazil form, and it's, you can see it's a different form, right? It's much more edgy, has like more fenestration, sharper edges kind of. And I really enjoy this form. AJ gave it to me ages ago. I think I've had this also for 4 or 5 years now, so I need to tilt it forward a bit so you can really see it. And for the longest time I didn't really pay all too much attention to her because I was like, oh, you know, it's just a green Monstera and so on, like how good can it be? And when I moved into this house 18, 20, I don't know how many months ago it's been by now, I think 20-ish, I popped her into the garden and she was like this tall when I put her in the garden. All of like down there, these little leaves. And you can see there's a little empty spot over here. That's because a few leaves actually got burnt in my garden when it was a really hot day. Anyway, I changed the position in the garden to a little bit more of a shaded spot, and it has grown so well over the last year and a half for me, giving me these large fenestrations now, or large leaves with fenestrations. And yes, this plant also stays outside when it's winter. So it is just such an easy grower for me. But the upwards facing leaves is because the sun obviously comes from above, not so much from the front. The other thing I want to show you with this plant is the insane root system. It's backed up against a fence. I have a brushwood fence, so the fence holds a little bit of moisture, so these roots are just attracted to the fence. So look at this, that is absolutely insane. Crazy. But that's okay. I have no plans of doing anything with this. I'll just let it do its own thing. But yeah, I really enjoy this plant, and you might have noticed I started it off on a piece of iron bark, but now I'm converting it to a moss pile because I have plans. So yeah, really happy about this plant. I just think it puts a little spin on an all-time classic, and I really like that because I do enjoy my classics. I don't need everything to be variegated and super fancy and like never seen before. I think Monstera deliciosa is one of the most beautiful plants that there is. There's a reason why it's so popular, right? But I already have a Thai that is basically just a variegated, tissue cultured large form deliciosa. I'll show you a variegated deliciosa in a second as well. So I figured, okay, I don't really need to add a normal green form into my collection because I already have all of the features somewhere else in my collection, and it wouldn't really add something to my collection that I don't already have. But with this form and the somewhat more unique fenestrations, yet the hardiness of the deliciosa, I'm really excited about this plant. And I'm actually really excited to grow it up a moss pile and eventually propagate it and spread the joy of this plant, because I don't see this around often. Well, alright, let's talk about the deliciosa then. This one is my Albo deliciosa. It is a small form, which is also referred to as Borsigiana, but I always hated the word Borsigiana. At the end of the day, it is not a described species. The only described species is deliciosa. But you should see the difference between this one and the Thai quite easily, right? The Thai has really short internodal spacing and huge leaves. This one has smaller leaves and much larger internodal spacing, so it climbs much faster. This is one of 3 albos in my collection, and it's by far the smallest one out of those 3, but that's kind of why I like it. I love the variegation in it and how small and compact it is. Of course, I like to grow my plants to maturity, and I like to grow them as large as possible within the confines of my indoor setting, and that's kind of the ambitious part in me. But that doesn't mean that once I got there and I figured out how to grow a plant to maturity, that I always want the plant to continuously mature. Sometimes it's more about finding out what the plant looks like in all of its stages and then choosing your favorite. Monstera dubia is a good one, for example. I grew Monstera dubia from a really tiny cutting all the way to being a huge mature monster, and I have to say that plant looks better when it's juvenile. So I'm going to start a juvenile dubia again, and my mature dubia has been relegated to the garden where she's suffering a little bit, you know. But yeah, at the end of the day, I want to achieve the maturity, and then I'm free to choose whichever state of the plant I enjoy the most, and then I'm going to aim at that again, right? So, or sometimes I have double ups like I did with the Verosumm, because I know I really like Verosumm, so why not grow a juvenile, teenager and a mature one of the same plant if I already know that it's my favorite plant and no other plant can beat its features, right? I wanted to include this not just because it's more relatable, you know, but also because I genuinely think out of the 3 albos that I currently have, this one is looking the best. It has the nicest growth pattern, the most consistent growth, and the nicest variegation. And overall, I just think it's so nice. And on top of that, it lives in my greenhouse and I do absolutely nothing for it. It's so easy to take care of, and it can also stay there all year round. It was already in my greenhouse last winter. That's also why I use aeroid mix in the pole over here, because in the greenhouse that's just a little bit easier to deal with. But the problem in the greenhouse, the light comes from all sides, also from above, so the leaves are facing a little up I would rather have them face more forward, so hence I'm just tilting the display a little bit to show you better. I think this just looks stunning, and I think it's a great example that no, bigger isn't always better, even though that's usually what I aim for. Now when I don't go big, I usually like to go really lush. So next up, we've got my Singonium Mojito. There is an absolute chaos in this pot over here. You can see all of these stems have been twisted around over and over again, and I've got a full dedicated video of how I got to this display as well. It's basically continuous propagation. Over the last year and a half or so, whenever this plant has grown a vine that is more than like 5 or 6 nodes, I started cutting 2-3 nodes off, propagated them, and put them back into the pot. So by now there must be over 20 or so cuttings in there, and then obviously if all 20 cuttings grow even just one leaf, I get a lot of leaves really quickly. So I really enjoy this lush display. I also really enjoy that it's more horizontal rather than vertical. I usually grow vertical. Horizontal space is hard to find, but I have plenty of that in the garden. So this is on top of that also a plant that's just in the garden. So again, really low effort, because pest treatment is done by Mother Nature, watering is done by Mother Nature in like 80% of the times, and it looks stunning. I have to do so little for it, but I get so much reward. So I really enjoy this, and I think this is also a really common plant. It doesn't need to be Singonium Mojito, right? I'm doing the same process now with an Albo Singonium as well. People love Singoniums. They come in all sorts of colors, and I just think having a lush trailing display like that for your Singonium is so much nicer than growing it to maturity. So I wanted to include it because I feel like it adds something different. This is my Filidendrin Glorious. It is a hybrid of Filidendrin Melanochrysum and Filidendrin Gloriosum. Very confusing names. Every day I get a question, why is your Gloriosum climbing? It's not my Gloriosum, it's my Filidendrin Glorious. It's a climber. However, because it's a hybrid of Gloriosum and Melanochrysum, Melano is the climber, Gloriosum is the crawler. Depending on which parentage is more dominant, they might also display crawling features. Okay, that was the disclaimer. So yeah, I've seen people have Glorious and they're more crawling because the Gloriosum parentage is just a little bit dominant in that instance. Over here, it is very climby. Like, it wants to climb so badly. Look how far it's climbed already. It's up here. Hello. So yeah, I don't manipulate this plant into growing as a climber. I always grow with nature rather than against nature, because that will yield the best results. I haven't always had the best success with this plant. Actually, for majority of last year, this plant was really suffering, didn't have all too many leaves, had to re-establish a whole root system because I had to do a massive unrooted chop, and it's now finally thriving again. So it's a plant that I have grown for almost 5 years now. I've had great success with this plant already in year 2, but the plant will only look as good as the effort you're willing to put right now, right? So me having grown this plant amazingly 3 years ago means nothing if I don't look after this plant right now. Plant care is a continuous effort, right? And you have to continuously be on top of them if you want to continuously see nice growth. And I think this is just one of the most stunning plants I have in my collections. It's one of my statement pieces. It's probably one of the plants that a lot of you guys know me for. You guys know me for large plants on moss poles, velvets. I mean, this ticks all of the boxes. So I'm really proud of this plant, and I'm really happy that it's finally thriving again. So I really just want to show it off. And if you want a big velvet dark philodendron, this is also the one to get. This one or Splendid. They're both much easier to grow than any of the species. If you've got a Melano and you're struggling, get yourself a Glorious. You'll have a much easier time growing this plant and sizing up this plant. So I think my #1 recommendation for a velvet philodendron for sure. What haven't we done? Let's go back to a small one then. Oop, there's one hiding over here. This one is definitely one I haven't shown you all too often. I think it so far has only appeared in one video, and it's going to get its own spotlight really soon. This is my Skindapsis Jade Variegata. Have a look at this. I got it as, I believe, just this cutting, just this one leaf, and then it started growing for me really nicely. I mean, I love this leaf. really, really nicely. Then the pattern started changing to this sort of mottled look, which I really, really like. I do think this leaf is just fully green. I'm still waiting for the variegation to show, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. But the one after that is very variegated again. So at least it didn't fully revert. But I love the variety in variegation, not just in the way that it appears, sectoral, mottled and so on, also the color. Down here, the older leaves, it's getting almost to a white, and then cream, yellow, and over here it's more like green on green still. So you've got so much variety, so much interest in just one pole, and it's super, super compact. Takes up fuck all space. It is small enough to fit in my IKEA cabinet. It doesn't have a massive spread. It's very nice and compact. I love shingling plants and I should definitely have more of them. So I'm really happy I added that one to my collection, and I think it is one of the more stunning variegated plants in my collection. So yeah, it's definitely, I am so excited about this plant every day. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh my god, look at it! I do sound like a broken record, and I spoke about it recently because I've done a full video on variegated plants. But again, it's about the journey for me over here. If I would know exactly what I get from this plant, I would be less interested. But because I don't know what variegation is the next leaf showing and so on, I'm more excited to grow this plant, because ultimately it's not about possessing a plant. It's not about having the perfect variegated leaf. The perfect variegated leaf is only gonna last so long, right? Like, it's a leaf. It's gonna die one day, so it's not about having the perfect leaf. It's about enjoying the journey. And I enjoy the journey. Now, another very, very enjoyable journey in this hobby has been my Alocasia Copria. And I've recently done a full plant spotlight on this plant where I discuss everything I know about this plant. So if you want to know how I turned this teeny tiny plant into this, go check out the video. I'll link it at the end screen as well. Now, it has these beautiful red backs over here. It also has a nice dying leaf over here that I just noticed. Oopsie. Well, it's pointing towards the back. But yeah. I've just had the best journey with this plant, and I don't have a good journey with Alocasias usually, but this plant was one of my first plants, and it has not skipped a beat in, I think it's 5 years now. So I've had the easiest time with this plant. We've gone from strength to strength, and as a result of that, it has a lot of value to me, sentimental value. It is one of my plants that has been with me since the beginning. We've moved many times together, we've lived in different houses, we've done many YouTube videos together. Oh my god, I talk about it like it's a child. Well, it is somewhat of a child. It's a plant that has very much contributed towards my obsession, or let's call it passion, for plants, and my passion for content creation as well. I think if it wasn't for these sort of really stunning, show-stopping plants, I might not have a YouTube channel in the first place. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think I'm the kind of person that would just do plant hauls and be like, hey, this is all of the stuff that I bought. I take pride in being really good at things, and the proof is ultimately in the pudding. And having these beautiful plants that just show that I know what I'm doing makes me really happy and makes me confident enough to talk about it online. I don't have qualifications in this, right? I'm not a botanist. I'm not a horticulturalist. So I can't go out there and be like, look how knowledgeable I am based on these pieces of paper, but I can show you my plants and show you that, hey, this is where I grow the plant, and this is how I grow the plant, and this is what the plant ended up looking like. And I think that says more than 1,000 words, right? So it is a plant that is very, very sentimental to me, has a lot of value, but not monetary value, if you know what I mean, right? Like, you can't buy this plant. You have to grow this sort of plant. And to grow, you gotta have skills, not just deep pockets. See, the rant wasn't fully over, was it? Now, the really observant of you might have noticed that that was not 10 plants, because the 10th one is way too large to fit in my living room. We have got to go outside. So let me show you the last one. Oh! Guys, have you ever seen roots that thick? Oh my god, I can't, hang on. Oh my god. Fuck, it is so heavy. Okay, I do not need to go to the gym, and you also probably can't see me by now. Look at this plant. Wow. Oh. This is my Thermatophilum bipinnatifidum. That was a whole workout. Honestly, this plant is probably 50-60 kilos. Obviously way too big for a houseplant. But here in my garden, look at the spread. Look at this. Oh my god. Here in my garden, it does take up more space than the entire seating area, but I love it. It's giving me the tropical vibe that I want, while being very winter resistant, or resistant to our winter temperatures. We don't get freezing cold temperatures, but last night, for example, it was 8 degrees. Not my preference, but these grow wild over here, in parks, all over the streets and so on. So I know they have an easy time, so when I was looking for plants that I can have in my garden that make my garden look lush and tropical year round, even when I just look at it from the inside with the heater on because outside is too cold for me to really enjoy, it looks good, you know, it looks tropical, it looks warm. So it's all about tricking my brain, I suppose. But yeah, it is such an easy grower. Again, I grow it outdoors year round. All I have to do is do one repot every spring, which is harder than you might think given how big and heavy this plant is. So I think this year, for the first time, that repot is going to be a 2-people job. I do not think I can tackle this myself and not break my back. So Timmy, if you're watching this, you're on the hook for next spring's repot. Thank you. Okay, I have to push it all the way into the corner, otherwise I'm running out of garden space. And we are back inside. Thank you so much for coming along. In the comments down below, let me know which one out of those 10 was your favorite plant and why, and which plant is currently your favorite plant in your collection. Also, let me know, is this too repetitive? Are you sick of seeing the same plants over and over again? Should I dial down the frequency in which I make these like top 10 videos? My thought process behind it was that, you know, the internet loves the negativity, and unfortunately I have to feed into that negativity every now and then if I want to keep this channel afloat. So I do a few negatively connotated videos like plants I wouldn't buy again, or plants I wouldn't put on moss piles and so on. But I enjoy positivity. I think plants should be a positive hobby. So I also want to share with you my successes, the positive news, and hopefully inspire or motivate you to keep going with this hobby or go for quality over quantity. So I do want to sprinkle in the positive videos here and there, but if it ends up being too repetitive because I just have like a really distinct taste, then so be it. Ultimately, there's no point in me making videos if there's nobody who wants to watch them, right? So of course I do want to listen to your feedback, but at the same time I also don't want to compromise the way that I run my hobby. Maybe I just need to compromise the way that I run the channel instead. I'm not too sure. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon so you get a notification every time I upload. And hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Bye!